Okay, folks. Start your engines. No, actually, chill out. Just relax. All right, well, welcome to our first afternoon at the World Conference. Did you enjoy your morning so far? All right, well, the afternoon is also packed. We have a really great variety of talks. I won't read them out, but we've got business psychology, project management, marketing, templating, illustrated templating. I think that's a unique one, so definitely check that out. And I also wanted to remind you guys, if this is your first JWC, our sponsors tend to be very generous and take care of the evening beverages. So don't forget that tonight, rockin'. That's right. So Rockin' tonight is our beverage sponsor, so definitely stick around after the final keynote later today. For now, we've got our second keynote. Rod Martin returns to the Joomla keynote stage. Rod's going to talk to us about personal and business leadership. He is currently the director of live training at OS Training. And I guess I know what the opposite of live training is, but there's just like a joke in there somewhere, I think, Rod. And he's not going. Yeah, I won't even go there. Rod has been spent a lot of his time educating people about Joomla, and in that role has probably introduced thousands and thousands of people to the platform. So without further ado, Rod, we look forward to your talk.
Right, thanks. Well, I was born in this country, and I grew up in this city. I carry one of these. When we were 10, we moved to this country, and I grew up in this city. It's Toronto. I carry one of those. About 8 years ago, we moved to this country. I live in the thriving metropolis of Dillsboro, Indiana. Yeah, baby. You look up redneck in the dictionary. It's my hometown. We have an armed militia 15 minutes from my house. For a Canadian boy, that's really kind of weird. In fact, the last time I went back into Canada, I was in a white panel van. Probably not the best vehicle to go back into Canada in because the customs official looked at me and said, "Do you have any weapons on board?" And I said, "I'm Canadian." She said, "You live in Indiana. Do you have any weapons on board?" I said no. So for those of you who are American, which is probably the vast majority of you today, I do have one of these. I'm legal. But because of all of this, I'm also quite confused. I do speak Australian, Canadian, and a little bit of American. I don't speak French very well, un petit peu. I failed French in grade 11. And I don't speak UK, European, or pretty much any other country. So if I say something today that's confusing to you because of the language barrier, come talk to me later, and I'll confuse you some more, and that'll be great. Just to give you a little bit of my background, I've worked for large and small for-profits. I worked for IBM for a year. I've worked for a bunch of other for-profits. Most of my work has been in the nonprofit sector, however, in a couple of smaller nonprofits and then quite a large nonprofit a number of years ago. I'm a teacher. I've been an adjunct professor pretty much ever since I graduated with my master's degree and teach a variety of topics. This January, I'm going up to Canada to teach technology and education. And 10 years ago when I started teaching this course, I took about $20,000 worth of equipment up. This year I'm taking my iPad. Education has changed a little bit. I'm a trainer and I'm a business owner. I own Navigate Tomorrow. It's a design company. And until I joined OS Training as a part owner to do training full-time, that was my gig. Now I'm a full-time trainer and part owner with OS Training. And as you can see, I've built a lot of sites and introduced, and it's really been a privilege to introduce a lot of people to Joomla through the online courses that we've done, as well as the live training that we've done. And so that's kind of where we're at. With OS Training, this is the last thing you'll hear about OS Training. Not a commercial, I promise. I've done probably just over 300 of the online lessons there as well. So a teacher, trainer, and business owner, and hopefully that gives me a little bit of a perspective to share some of these things with you today. I won't say that I know everything, because I certainly don't. I'm on the journey just like you. Quick show of hands, how many of you do own a Joomla business or are involved in a Joomla business? That's what I figured. How many of you are solo entrepreneurs Or as my new friend John right here said, a single dog and pony show. One-man dog and pony show. I asked him which was the dog side and which was the pony side, but with that ponytail, I figured I knew. Again, so how many single shops, single owner shops? Okay, that's a fair number of you. The rest are, I'm assuming, then small businesses. So today, then, that's what we're going to look at, but let's get started.
Joomla, the world's best CMS. These are the business tips for the Joomla community. Its ongoing mission to bring amazing websites to billions, to succeed where most have failed, to boldly go where no CMS has gone before.
All right, 10 leadership tips, 10 lessons from Star Trek today. That's the goal. As you can see, I've got one of the new Star Trek implemented LCAR devices up here, thanks to this man. Really appreciate all he did as he watched Star Trek in his younger days and decided to create the device that we all know and love. Well, yeah.
Now establishing data link.
Of course, if we're going to have an LCARS device, we should really use one. One of the great things about Star Trek is the usability that it gives us, and of course the nice, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about a lot of these things today as we go. So first tip then that I want to share with you is know yourself. I'm going to split this today into personal business, personal leadership, and business leadership. This is the first thing I think every business leader needs to take seriously. I don't think you can really run a business unless you take this seriously. And so let me kind of walk us through some of that thing, some of this from a Star Trek perspective.
My name is McCoy. I'm a doctor.
What am I, a doctor or a moon shuttle conductor?
I jumped every time a light came on around here. I'd end up talking to myself.
I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
You're a healer. There's a patient. That's an order.
I'm a surgeon, not a psychiatrist.
Look, I'm a doctor, not an escalator. Spock, give me a hand.
I'm a doctor, not a mechanic. I'm a doctor, not an engineer.
No, you're an engineer.
I'm a doctor, not a coal miner.
Keep saying that. Are you a doctor, aren't you?
I don't know.
Well, hopefully Dr. McCoy knows that he's a doctor. So let's talk about knowing yourself just a little bit, because I think it's pretty much the most important thing if you're going to run a Joomla business. Because if you don't know who you are, your skill set and all of those things, it's going to be really hard for you and me, frankly, to succeed. So the first thing I want to say is this. My last corporate gig, my boss came to me one day, and I was in charge of the web team, the radio team, and the television team, the DVD team. And I had created a graphic for in an emergency because our graphic designer was out. And he looked at me after he looked at the graphic and he said, Rod, you have to understand I like you, but you're more autistic than you are artistic. Never do that again. So let me ask you, what are you passionate about? That's the first thing you've got to ask yourself. What are you really passionate about? Because I'll tell you, running your own Joomla business or running a small Joomla business or any business at all, we probably got into it because we love to do web design and we found this thing called Joomla and we got really excited and suddenly we found that we could make great websites for people at a relatively good cost. But the problem is now you own a business. Does anybody like tax time? Does anybody really like invoicing? You like the results of invoicing. Do you like to invoice, right? Do you really like selling? I suck at selling. I'm not a good salesman. I'm a good trainer, I hope, but I'm a terrible salesman. First question you've got to ask yourself is, what are you passionate about? The next question is, what are you good at? Because if you're passionate about it, but you're terrible at it, it's probably not a good idea, right? I love art. I thought I was a good drawer when I was in grade 7. Drawer, that's what we called it back then. Artist, I was an artist in grade 7. A few years ago, I'm autistic instead of artistic. What do I know? The third one is, where's the market demand? And so let's take these three together, and you get this: your passion, your competence, and the market demand. As a leader, as a Joomla business owner, you've got to find the sweet spot. So, do I do artwork anymore? Well, duh. Not if I want to keep in business. No. I've always hired that out, pretty much since that day, actually. I went home, cried, wept for a while, and my wife looked at me and said, "Honey, what's wrong?" I said, "I'm autistic, honey." She said, "I know." You may be passionate about it, you may have a competence at it, but if there's no market demand for it, are you going to have a business? No. So these are the three things I think you need to really watch for when you're actually talking about what kind of business you want to build and what your role in it is going to be. Every great leader knows that they can't do it all. And so there's lots of resources in this area. Personality tests are a place to start. The Strengths Finder 2.0 is pretty good. There's the DISC profile, there's the Berkman method, and if you really want to spend a lot of money, there's a whole bunch of others. There are things like great books. I had a prof in seminary who said, leaders are readers and readers are leaders. And if you stop reading, you stop leading. So there's lots and lots of books out there, right? First Things First by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, anything by Peter Drucker. I mean, you can take a MOOC these days and get your MBA online pretty much without even spending the $75,000 or $180,000 they want here at Harvard for an EMBA. I mean, you know, I whispered that just in case they're recording it. I don't think they care about what I say here. There's some other great books about personal leadership development, like Enchantment by Guy Kawasaki. If you've not read that, I'd highly recommend it, because most of you need to be more enchanting. You're geeks, right? We need to be enchanting. That was a joke. You can laugh now. All right, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. All right, number 2. Leadership requires humility. I think great leaders are humble. Now, there are exceptions to that, and we all probably think of Steve Jobs, who was anything but humble, but he's the exception. I think great leadership requires humility.
You have any idea what a pain in the ass you are?
I think so, sir.
So tell me what you did wrong. What's the lesson to be learned here?
Never trust a Vulcan.
Oh, so you can't even answer the question. You lied. On an official report, you lied. You think the rules don't apply to you because you disagree with them.
That's why you talked me into signing up in the first place. It's why you gave me your ship.
I gave you my ship because I saw greatness in you. And now I see you haven't got an ounce of humility.
What was I supposed to do? Let Spock
You're
die?
missing the point.
I don't think I am, sir. What would you have done?
I wouldn't have risked my first officer's life in the first place. You were supposed to survey a planet, not alter its destiny. You violated a dozen Starfleet regulations and almost got everyone under your command killed.
Except I didn't. You know how many crew members I've lost since I
That's
got the
your
captain,
problem.
sir?
You think you're infallible. You think you can't make a mistake. It's a pattern with you. The rules are for other people.
Some should be.
And what's worse is you're using blind luck to justify your playing God.
That's, of course, from the latest movie, right after Kirk saved an entire planet by breaking the Prime Directive. He's getting reamed out by his admiral, and we'll see the rest of that clip in just a minute. Humility is one of those things that we struggle to really get a good understanding on it. C.S. Lewis says that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. And I really think that's a great requirement for leadership. It's strength under control. Humility is not weakness. It's not mamsy-pamsy, I'm going to, acquiesce to everything because I'm a humble guy. No, that's not it at all. We've seen enough. We've had enough of arrogant leaders and business owners, and so have our clients. I can't tell you how often I stand in a training room in front of 10, 15 people, and I say, "Why are you here today?" And they'll say, "Well, we had a developer, and we don't get along with them anymore because of X, Y, or Z," sorry, Canadian, Z, so we're here to learn how to do it ourselves and keep our site up to date. And I said, well, help me understand what happened between you and the company that you were working with. And the stories vary, but invariably it comes down to, one of 3 or 4 things: incompetence or arrogance. Guys, I use that term generically. Folks, we can't be arrogant. Not one of you knows it all, including me. And humility is a wonderful, wonderful trait. In our world, there's lots of uncertainty, and so we often learn by doing, and the path unfolds before us. And so humility is an attribute we really need.
And I really do think that people are very, very motivated by leaders who they view as humble. I think it's an inspiring attribute. You want to work for someone like that, and more importantly, you model that for people that work for you. So if you do that as a leader, you build humble leaders who then, in turn, I think, build motivated teams. And that's different from confidence and aggression, being aggressive and ambitious. Those are perfectly symbiotic. But I think underneath that all, if you retain humility, you have a good shot at it.
All right, so number 2. Number 3, be afraid of the big chair. Now, this kind of goes with number 2, so let me explain what I mean by that.
Given the circumstances, this has been brought to Admiral Marcus's attention. He convened a special tribunal to which I was not invited. You understand what Starfleet regulations mandate be done at this point. They've taken the Enterprise away from you. They're sending you back to the Academy.
Admiral, listen.
No, I'm not going to listen. Why should I listen? I'm not going to listen. You don't listen to anybody but yourself.
But every decision I've made...
I can't listen. You don't comply with the rules. You don't take responsibility for anything, and you don't respect the chair. You know why? Because you're not ready for it.
In Kirk's evolution as a leader, he gets to this point where he fights with the Admiral, and the Admiral says, you just don't respect the chair. There's an interesting study that was reported in the November issue of Harvard Business Review that says the bigger the chair, the more likely you are to cheat. It's a really interesting concept. Those of us who have big spaces in which to work and live, whether the space is a chair or any other environment, are far more likely, in fact, almost twice as likely to cheat than those of us who have a constricted or smaller environment in which to work. So the bigger the chair, the more likely you are to cheat. Leaders, owners, I'm just going to ask a simple question. I don't want you to raise your hands because, that could be embarrassing. When was the last time, or have you ever cheated a client? By fudging on a time report, a project, you've done shoddy code and haven't reported it? The bigger the chair, the higher you rise in an organization, the more likely you are to cheat. That's an amazing statistic. Well, here's how it works. 78% of the people in the big seats in this study, or open postures, kept the overpayment. They were overpaid for a job. 78% kept it, versus 38% of those in a smaller chair or a more constricted environment like a cubicle instead of the corner office. Wow. I'll leave that with you just to think about while you watch this clip where Lieutenant Sulu gets his first shot at the big chair.
Mr. Sulu, you have the con. Once we're en route, I want you to transmit a targeted comm burst to Harrison's location. You tell me you have a bunch of real big torpedoes pointed at his head, and if he doesn't play nice, you're not afraid to use them. Is that a problem?
No, sir. I've just never sat in the chair before.
You're gonna do great.
Jim, wait. You just sat that man down at a high-stakes poker game with no cards and told him to bluff. Now, Sulu's a good man when he is no captain.
And for the next 2 hours, he is. And enough of the metaphors, all right? That's an order.
Mr. Sulu, make sure that Kenormian ship is ready to fly.
All right, so watch the transformation.
Attention, John Harrison. This is Captain Hikaru Sulu of the USS Enterprise. A shuttle of highly trained officers is on its way to your location. If you do not surrender to them immediately, I will unleash the entire payload of advanced long-range torpedoes currently locked onto your location. You have 2 minutes to confirm your compliance. Refusal to do so will result in your obliteration. If you test me, you will fail.
Mr. Sulu, remind me never to piss you off.
That's a pretty good example, but you get the point, right? The big chair does things to you. Are you in the big chair? How you doing? The big chair is scary. The big chair is tempting. The big chair can really mess up your business if you're not careful when you're in the big chair. You saw what? Or send you to prison or any other, yeah, thank you. Prison would be bad. It would be like being captured by the Borg, where its resistance is futile. However, for us, resistance is not futile. It is never futile because we are innovators. Innovation is an absolute necessity. It's pretty much our mandate as Joomla business owners. We're going to innovate, kind of like the Riker maneuver.
The transfer has been completed. Dr. Pulaski is being shown to her quarters. We're ready to get underway.
Hence, the Riker maneuver. Why go around when you can go over? Of course, not all of us can go over now, can we? This is Nafola Merchant, who has authored a book called The 11 Rules for Creating Value in the Social Era. And she's going to give us some really good tips here. Number one, know your purpose. Who you serve and why. Michael Hyatt, an award-winning, 7-time award-winning writer on the New York Times bestseller list, says, when we forget the why, we lose our way. Or the way he says it is, you find your way when you find your why. And I think that's really important. Why did you become a Joomla business owner? Was it just to make money? I would submit to you, if that's the only reason you're a Joomla business owner, then probably you're not experiencing business ownership in the Joomla spirit. And there's so much more. How many of you have volunteered in the community? Most of you. Is there more? Say with me, yes. Say it with me. Yes, of course there's more than just running your business. We're here as an open source community to be exactly that, a community, and hopefully make a living while we're at it. Know your purpose, who you serve, and why. Number two, figure out what you need to learn. When it comes to innovation, we don't innovate, we don't try new things just because they're fun, although most of you probably are ready to go out and buy the new iPhone 5S or the new iPad Air just because it came out. That's the exception to the rule. Figure out what you need to learn in order to innovate. And it may not be in your wheelhouse right now, but if you have the ability and you have the passion, when the market demand is there, you are therefore positioned. Number three, learn to unlearn. When we're innovating, we have to unlearn some things. How many of you have your favorite 10 extensions that you install on every single site? Yeah, okay, me too. I'm doing a session tomorrow on Sunday called 45 Extensions in 45 Minutes. That's not self-promotion at all, sorry. And I've got my, favorites in there. But one of the things that the problem is when we have our favorites, are we open to looking for new solutions as they come along? No, because we're so busy just installing our top, 5, 15 favorite things. And sometimes we forget there might be something new and cool out there that can better do the job. 4, pilot, invest, experiment. Peter Sims calls these little bets. And the point here is that as we are trying to build our businesses, one of the things we have to keep doing, like they did on Star Trek when the Borg came along, was innovate. The Riker maneuver, if you don't know the series, Captain Picard was captured by the Borg. He knew everything that Riker knew, and Riker somehow did something unexpected to thwart the Borg attack, get Captain Picard back, save the day, save the world. Well, that's what happens in every Star Trek, right? But they called it the Riker maneuver because it was completely unexpected. And that's really what innovation is. We try to innovate at OS Training a lot. Sometimes we succeed and sometimes we fail. part of a little experiment we did a little while ago. You know, in Joomla, you can put the site, the title of the article before or after the name of the site. Well, for us, of course, our site name is OS Training. So Steve thought, well, let's try something. He put the site or the site name before the title. That, combined with a couple of other things, we dropped 30% in our rankings in 3 weeks. How exciting is that? Thankfully, it didn't kill the business. Steve and the other guys figured, I don't deal much with the website, but they figured it out quickly, and as a part of fixing it, they put that the other way back, and pretty soon the stats went right back up. So, failure is not an option, but sometimes it's part of our learning experience, right? So, innovation, resistance isn't futile. Finally, if you have a company where you're innovating and sometimes failing and sometimes winning, she suggests you need to reward learning and cooperation. When somebody comes up with an idea, whether it passes or fails, if it contributes to the overall success of your business, reward that person. And that gives motivation, even in the face, sometimes, of failure. Number 5, and this is the last one in the personal side, and it's pretty much maybe the most important of the first 5. Making good decisions is the most important thing a leader or a business owner does. Think of all the things that go on in your business every day, and then think about that point for just a second and tell me, is that not true? Your decisions are what can send your business forward or sink it like a battleship. Ram Charan, who is an author that has written a number, again, best-selling books. He's a great author. This is what he says is the most important job of a leader.
Captain on the bridge!
Lieutenant, we have an open channel, Mr. Spock.
The heat's frying his comms, but we still have contact.
Spock!
I have activated the device, Captain. When the countdown is complete, the reaction should render the volcano inert.
Yeah, and that's gonna render him inert.
Do we have use of the transporters?
Negative, sir.
Not with these magnetic fields.
I need to beam Spock back to the ship. Give me one way to do it.
Maybe if we had a direct line of sight.
Hold on, wee man. You're talking about an active volcano, sir. If that thing erupts, I can't guarantee we can withstand the heat.
I don't know that we can maintain that kind of altitude.
Our shuttle was concealed by the ash cloud, but the Enterprise is too large. If utilized in a rescue effort, it would be revealed to the indigenous species.
Spock, nobody knows the rules better than you, but there has got to be an exception.
None. Such action violates the Prime Directive.
Shut up, Spock. We're trying to save you, damn it.
Doctor, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Spock, we're talking about your life!
The rule cannot be broken.
Spock! Try to get him back online.
90 seconds to detonations.
Spock were here and I were there. What would he do?
He'd let you die.
Decisions. This is the scene that got Kirk in all kinds of trouble because he broke the Prime Directive a few minutes later, and so I've kind of done those clips in reverse. This is Ram Charan, and he says, in every decision-making process you have, number 1, be very clear about the end goal. This takes some thought. Especially as your companies grow, these decisions become more complex. Every day you face, should I do this or should I do that? Really, before you even get to that point of saying, should I do this or should I do that, the point is, what's the end game? What's the goal? Why are you trying to do this or innovate in this area? Why are you trying to go in this direction? Be very clear about the end goal. Think about out-of-the-box alternatives. Sometimes we get so boxed into our culture, the Joomla culture, for example, the Joomla community, that we can't see really good solutions that might be completely outside of what we know. And so, other than being absolutely precise, clear, and unambiguous, he says that you've got to start looking outside the box. This is a guy that has studied Fortune 500 companies for the last 30 years, and this is what he says is the most critical thing for a leader. So I figure we probably ought to pay attention to it, even if you are the one-man dog and pony show leader. Number 3, seek diverse inputs. I really like this one because this is a bit of a change in the Star Trek philosophy. Remember Captain Kirk, for those of you who are old enough to have watched the original episodes live, which of course I was not. However, I saw them in, oh, thanks. Okay. Kirk made all the decisions, right? Rarely did he seek input from anybody, and if he did, he usually ignored it because it came from Spock or Bones or somebody else, or one of the guys in the red shirts who was about to die anyway. And so he basically ignored it and made up his own mind. Come along to Star Trek The Next Generation, we see a very different decision-making process. Picard would sit around with his chief staff around the conference table. They'd look at a video. Data would say something. Geordi would say something. The doctor would say something. The counselor would say something. Why those guys are the leaders on the ship, I have no clue. But they would all say something. Then he would make the call, and they would fall in line, which is far more modern than we've had before. And so he says, Ram Charan says, here are the 3 most important decisions every CEO needs to make. People, who you're going to hire, who you're going to fire. And in fact, folks, I got to tell you, the hardest thing we do, I don't know about you guys, the hardest thing we do is fire people. Because we maybe shouldn't have hired them in the beginning. Say we made the mistake. Sometimes we wait way too long to fire people and clients. So those of you with more than one person, when I was on my own, I fired myself once a week. I did. I'd stand in front of the mirror, you're fired. It's like Donald Trump, felt really good. Of course, I rehired myself about an hour later after I'd sat out and had a coffee. But this is really critical, and this is one of the most difficult decisions. Without kind of, telling stories on people, I've been a part of companies now where, this is one of the things we struggle with because we want to be nice. We want to grow, we want to go, we want to do great things together, but sometimes somebody's just not the best fit. He says this is the hardest decision CEOs have to make. And I'll tell you this, on all the Fortune 500 companies, we're not alone in having a problem with this. Virtually all of the CEOs struggled with this. Number 2, the culture of your company. Again, when you're a solo, it's not so big. You get up in the morning, you keep your pajamas on, you have coffee, you go to your computer, you code. If you have a Skype call, you put a shirt on, but you still got your pajama bottoms on, it's all good. So we're not too worried about culture there, but you're still creating a culture with your clients. What kind of approach do you want to take with clients? What kind of culture do you want to have? And then thirdly, balancing the short term and the long term. And I'll tell you, this is a really tough one. For those of you who are innovating, this is hard. And that's why it's on his top 3 list. This is a really interesting chart. This is an experiment that a group of Harvard professors did, finding the decision-making sweet spot. And what this is a grid of trades by a group of traders, okay? Down on the bottom, the traders down in the bottom were isolated and did not talk to anybody, didn't crowdsource their trades. Up at the top, these are the people that talked to everybody. They have 10,000 Twitter followers and get advice from all of them and give advice to all of them. And it's really interesting what they found. Every dot on that screen is a trade. Here's what they found when they actually analyzed these millions of trades. The people down in the bottom left in the isolation chambers, what they called it, made relatively few trades and made very little money. The people up in the top, the echo chamber is what they called it, or the crowdsourcing, these are the people that talk to everybody about their trades and find out what's going on, and they talk back and forth. They made a lot of trades, but the balance, 30% more money, was in the middle, where people who moved a little bit out of their isolation chamber and moved out of the echo chamber a little bit, listened to not more people, but smarter people, made a 30% more on every trade that they made. So when it comes to decision making, this is really a lot like Kirk and Picard. Kirk, in isolation, didn't listen to anybody, made his decisions. Picard listened, made the decisions, but didn't listen to the junior officer down on the lowest deck unless the guy had something really good to say. And even he didn't listen to the guys in the red shirt because he knew they'd be dead soon too. So decision making, making great decisions. And again, there's a lot of really good literature. Ram Charan has a great book on that. And I encourage you to take a look at that. And again, you just Google Sharan decisions and it'll pop right up. So that's the sweet spot. And that's what we saw in the development of Star Trek. That's what we need to see in the development of our businesses. Number 6, clients are aliens, and we are the universal translator. And that's what that thing is in the top left. I love this slide because you get some of the aliens that Kirk kind of met over the years. By the way, here's a bonus one. Kirk, don't mix business with pleasure. Every alien he ever kissed turned on him at some point and tried to kill him. You ever notice that? I mean, seriously, Kirk, you'd think you'd know, all right? Except Uhura, we'll talk about her in a minute. Guys, in my last corporate gig, I was the head of the web team. I had a title, whatever it was, but my job was Chief Geek Marketer. That's basically what I was. I was the translator between the leadership and the geeks. I reported directly to the Senior Vice President of Marketing, and my job was to make sure the words that were coming up were understood by everybody at the top, and the words that were coming down were then translated into geek. I had a lot of fun with that job. It was a .NET shop. I don't know any .NET. I didn't need to. I was a geek marketer. In fact, they didn't want me making code anyway. Our job is to speak their language. Our job is to translate the geek into manageable chunks of information so they can trust you and want to use you in your business. And so let me encourage you, you are the universal translator. Don't talk geek to clients. And make sure you're talking at their level, in their comfort zone, not yours. That takes work for most of us. Most of us, those of you who are coders, really like to talk geek. Get your fix this week and then stop. Okay? Get your fix and stop because your clients, your customers, don't understand.
So in software or in soft cheese, it's the same thing. The features and the benefits don't necessarily matter. What matters is how you talk about your product to your audience in a way in which they can understand. My software could have the same features and benefits that Microsoft has, or my soft cheeses could have the same features and benefits as another cheese producer. But what matters is how I package that and how I talk to my market about it in a way that's unique and innovative and perhaps even irreverent, that changes the market.
So again, we're looking at a process whereby we communicate with our clients in a way that is meaningful and manageable for them. Maybe we need to step out of our comfort zone. But as a leader, as a business owner, honestly, we really need to learn that. Something that Star Trek taught us through the years. Number 7, embrace diversity. This is always an interesting topic because we have a diverse world, but not always is that fully represented in our community. And probably not in our businesses either, but certainly not in our community. So let me just I'm going to step back for just a second, and I want to address this issue. Joomla is a wonderful community when it comes to involving different genders. There are 2 genders, you know that, right? Male and female. I'm looking out at the crowd. I have a unique opportunity at this moment to look out at you as a crowd and go, there's a fairly good number of women in the room. And I'm really, really excited to see that. Women for years have been banned from the whole, this is a man's world, Marlboro Man, Joomla experts riding their horses off into the sunset. Geeks are mostly smelly guys in their mother's basement, right? So it is great to see some gender diversity going on here. I don't think we've gone far enough. But as a community, we're doing better than most. So I think that's really good. Let's give ourselves a round of applause for that, understanding that we need to do better. Go ahead.
But I'm not afraid. I am not afraid.
Well, if you followed Star Trek at all, you know that was the very first televised interracial kiss in the United States. There's some interesting stories about that whole kissing scene. They practiced it a lot, apparently. Apparently they did. And I mean, you know, if you follow Star Trek, they're not exactly best friends these days, but back then apparently they liked each other enough that they practiced that scene a lot. And apparently at one point, you know, Kirk in his little halting thing says, I won't kiss you. And then they sucked face for 15 minutes. But of course that caused quite a stir. And there's all kinds of background stories. This was huge in the United States. I want you to just take a look around the room for just a minute. Just go ahead and take a look around the room for a minute. Now, I am about as pasty white as you get. If you saw my legs, we'd need shades, okay? But I grew up in Toronto. And I'm going to step on maybe a few toes, and I apologize. But I grew up in Toronto. I went to church as a kid. There were 35 nationalities in my church. Missions conference every year, we had a meal. Oh, this food from all over the world. Oh, my stars, it was good. I went in, I starved myself for a week, gorged, and I was only 12. You know, 12-year-olds can eat a fair bit. Anyway, it was awesome. Fast forward to moving to Dillsboro, Indiana, which is, again, fairly redneck and monocultural. I tell you, and I know this is being recorded, and my friends are probably going to watch, so I'm going to say something to my friends. Get over it. This is a multicultural world, and I really struggle in a place where I live where anything that's not white isn't really accepted. In fact, if you didn't grow up in Indiana, if you haven't lived in the county for 40 years, you're not accepted either. So it's not just a color thing there, it's everything. But as you looked around the room, how much color did you see here today? Some. Good. Right? Let me throw something out to you that I know is controversial, but I'm going to say it again anyway, since I'm on a roll and I'm not getting paid for this, so, you know, it's not like you can't fire me, although I guess you could walk out. Lock the doors. There's only two races. There's only one race. There's not two races. There's not three. There's one. There's the human race. Folks, right? Okay. So, let me make a suggestion. Those of you who own Joomla businesses, get into the schools. Get into wherever you see people who don't know about great coding. Let's make sure we're getting the message out cross-culturally. There's one guy here from China. Where are you? What's your name again? I'm sorry. Da. D-O-N. D-O, oh, Don. But you say Don. Got it. Yes. Remember, Australian, Canadian, and a little American. No, that's about as good as it gets. So we've got, you know, someone from China. We've got some Asian people in the room. We've got some people of color in the room. That's good. We need to do better. We need to reach out. This is a cross-cultural planet with one race. Let's do better. Whatever that means, however you can manage that. I've had a blast this last year. I got to teach for a week at a school in Dallas, that one of these historically black colleges. Oh my stars. I was the only white guy in sight, and they were all tall. Like I'm short, I know. I had so much fun with them because it was the culture, there's a difference in the culture, right? But they liked me and I liked them. We had so much fun. So guys, let's celebrate the diversity. Let's have some better gender diversity. Let's have some better color diversity. The only diversity we're not having is height diversity, because no one in the project from now on is allowed to be over 5'9". Just saying. Vic, we're good. Chad, where's Chad? There we are. Brian, all you other people over 5'9", I'm sorry, you're no longer part of the I'm kidding. I like tall people. Unless I'm standing behind them in a line, then I don't like them at all. All right. Number 8, every once in a while, with your clients, you've got to pull a rabbit out of your hat. And I love this one, because every once in a while, you just got to do something that blows them away. I have an iPhone. It's over there, and I put it down because some of you are tweeting, and it was buzzing every second in my pocket. So I put it over there. I've got an iPhone. One day I stopped at McDonald's, and I was going to a client meeting at McDonald's, and and after like for dinner, meeting up with some friends, and got out of the car. It fell, and I booted it right across the parking lot at McDonald's. Right, shattered the screen. I was devastated. It was like 3 weeks old. I don't know, something like that. I went to Apple, and I'm thinking I didn't get Apple Care. Now, it was more than 3 weeks because it was out of the initial warranty period, I think. So whatever. Anyway, I didn't get Apple Care, and I'm going in fully expecting, okay, $500, got my wallet, here we go, I'm going to buy a new iPhone. Went to the Genius Bar. The guy looked at it, he said, what happened? I told him. He looked up my records. He said, okay, give me a minute. Went to the back, brought out a little box. Here you go. Here's your new phone. I was blown away. Now, this is before they were actually publicizing that they did this. I was blown away. It was an awesome day. I was very happy. That was unexpected. That was a remarkable moment in customer service for me. Every once in a while, you got to pull a rabbit out of your hat. We're in Boston. Got to do it. You don't know what show this is? It's Boston Legal, starring Denny Crane, Captain Kirk.
What's the point? You don't ask. That's the point.
Full of a lot of earthy wisdom back then.
The world wants to know.
I'm afraid not. There's no state action. We've asked for specific performance with no clear evidence of discrimination. I don't like losing, especially when there's a wager involved.
Well, don't, soldier. Pull a rabbit out of your hat. That's the secret of both trial law and life.
Rabbits.
That's the secret of great customer service and surviving in a world of Joomla meltdowns. Have a rabbit that you can pull out of your hat, whether that's just a moment where you go above and beyond in the customer service experience, or a client comes along and just is angry and upset over something that was obviously out of your control, but they want to yell at somebody anyway. And so, you know what? You take it, you divert it, and you make it a win instead of a loss. You've got to have those rabbits. And whatever those are for you, they come out of your passion and out of your expertise. Your rabbit might be different than my rabbit. And so whatever you've got, pull it out of your hat and give the customer a fantastic experience. Number 9, remember where you parked. This isn't exactly Star Trek either, but
and we're blending, and we're blending, and we're done.
I know Mr. Data isn't supposed to smile, but here it comes.
Come on, guys, let's do this.
Yeah, I'm sweating my bald cap off.
So what's our first pose gonna be?
I say we begin with a classic Star Trek fight scene.
I'll set the timer.
Sheldon, how is that a fight pose? Mr. Data's weapon is his mind. I'm wielding it.
Faces on the Borg. Charlie's Angels.
Okay, what's next?
Now let's do some sexy glamour shots. I'll set the mood. Yeah, nice one. That's right. Oh my God, Leonard, someone's stealing your car.
What? Hey! Hey! Come back here!
Oh, stealing is against the law.
I don't believe this.
Son of a bitch! Well, I'll call 911. What? Oh no! My phone is in my other pants!
Mine too. So's mine. Anybody got any ideas?
Nope. The only thing left to do now is assign blame. Nice going.
It's always the Klingon. Remember where you parked, but don't lose your enterprise. It's kind of an important topic. Don't lose your car, don't lose your enterprise. Don't forget that sometimes, even though you're doing the coolest stuff, bad things can happen. Don Roush, the former president of Trader Joe's, says this: delighting customers in new ways only happens when you take risks. Failure actually is an option. And Trader Joe's, he goes on to talk about the fact that Trader Joe's tries thousands of things. Sometimes only one or two of them pans out. It goes back to that idea of innovation and being remarkable and having a rabbit to pull out of your hat every once in a while. But it is an interesting fact of life.
It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life.
I believe I understand, sir.
And Data, will you leave your hesitation and self-doubt here in your quarters?
Yeah, it's possible to do everything right, isn't it? And still lose. That's just the fact of life. And that's what's going to happen if you try things, if you innovate. Sometimes you may not win. Number 10, finally, have fun, because honestly, it doesn't last forever.
Kirk, with a lifetime of looking at the
alien.
The
right.
alien coming
Right,
towards you.
Right.
And instead of fear, I always played, wow, look at that. Oh, there's giant teeth that's coming towards me. That sort of thing. Awe and wonder.
10 minutes.
I figured
9.
Kirk would look at the moment of death and go, oh my.
It was fun. Oh my.
Sorry to get a little serious here at the end, but it's true. It's not going to last forever, and neither are you. There's a saying that I like to use. It's not every day can be remarkable, but you can make a remarkable difference in someone's life every day. As owners of businesses, you have the opportunity to do that, not only with clients, but with people you meet all the time. The Joomla community does this on a regular basis, right? That's what Joomla is all about. Bringing web design to billions, millions, billions of people, allowing them to have awesome sites to get their message out. We do remarkable things every day. Take that personally, because it's not going to last forever. This is a scene from probably my favorite episode of Star Trek ever. It's called The Inner Light. Picard lives an entire life in 40 minutes after he's been taken over by a probe, and he's there to talk about this culture that has now been extinct for 1,000 years.
Seize the time, Maribor. Live now. Make now always the most precious time. Now will never come again.
I love you, Father.
All right, there's a billboard in Australia, in Chicago. Go do good, seize the day. Let me challenge you with that. All right, bonus. Back last year, if you were here at the Joomla World Conference, Kevin John did a little video. When all else fails, break out in song.
I threw a wish in the well. Don't ask me, I'll never tell. I looked at you as it fell, and now you're in my way. I trade my soul for a wish, pennies and dimes for a kiss. I wasn't looking for this, but now you're in my way. Your stare was holding, ripped jeans, skin was showing. Hot night, wind was blowing. Where you think you're going, baby? Hey, I just met you.
Well, lest you think that Star Trek business lessons for today is out of touch, it is not.
I throw a wish in the well.
Don't ask me.
I'll never
Tell.
I look to you
As he fell, and now you're in.
my way.
I
Trade my soul for a wish that leaves a sort of
kiss. I wasn't looking
for
this, but now
you're in my way. Your stare
was holding ripped up jeans.
skin
Was showing
hot night.
wind.
What? Wait,
I think you're going.
baby.
Hey, I just met
You! And this is
Waiting! Here's
my
number.
so
Call me.
maybe it's
Talk to
all right. Bitch.
baby.
But here's
My number.
so
Call me.
maybe
Hey, I just met
you. And this is crazy.
But
Here's my
number.
so call me, baby.
And all the other boys.
Try to chase me.
But here's my number.
So call me, baby.
Hey, I just met
You. And this is crazy. But here's a number. So call me, baby.
And all the other boys.
Try to chase. But here's my number. So call me, baby. Or you came into my life. I missed it so bad. I missed it so bad. I missed it so bad before you came into my life. I missed it so bad.
And you.
So now, I missed it so bad.
Oh, lots of fun. Live long and prosper.
All right, Rod, I think you've really taken the theme of the conference very seriously, merging the geek day and the business day.
There we go.
Very well. Okay, folks, in addition to the topics I mentioned earlier, I was just looking at pages 4 and 5 of your program. That's where you guys are headed for the next 2 hours. Lots of really great business and marketing and really great topics today. Just to let you know, the coffee break is not until 4:30, so if you need something to keep you motivated for the next couple hours, grab it now, and we'll see you at the sponsor hall at that time. Thank you, everybody.